This episode of Sewing with Threads is sponsored by Baby Lock. Do you want to get your first Baby Lock machine? Are you ready to upgrade to a newer model or add to your collection? You're in luck. Baby Lock's warehouse sale is here. For a limited time, you can get select Baby Lock machines at reduced prices. Hurry, the Baby Lock warehouse sale ends July 31st. Selection and quantity vary by location and retailer availability. If you have your eye on something, get it during this sale. Visit babylock.com/warehouse sale to learn more and to find a retailer near you. Wild Ginger Software is also sponsoring this episode. Wild Ginger Software is thrilled to announce the launch of Pattern Master version 7, their best sewing pattern software yet. They dramatically simplified the user interface and the body measurement process. Wild Ginger added more styles and features, including a revolutionary new designer interface. This new interface makes it easy and fun to mix and match style options and create one-of-a-kind custom-sized styles. As always, Wild Ginger offers free measuring and fit support and a 90-day money-back guarantee. Check out the all-new Pattern Master version 7 and download the free demos at wildginger.com.
Welcome to Sewing with Threads, the monthly podcast by the staff of Threads magazine. I'm your host, editor Sarah McFarland, and I'm joined by senior technical editor Carol Frasia.
Hello.
And our managing editor production, Janine Clegg.
Hello.
This episode's special guest is our staff seamstress, Norma Bucko.
Hello.
Norma's been with us since 2007. She has an undergraduate degree in math secondary education and a master's in computer science. And in her spare time, she loves all kinds of fiber arts and spending time working on her hideaway home in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Well, thank you for being with us today, Norma.
Thank you.
Carol has 5 speedy sewing questions for you. It's a chance for our audience to get to know you better.
Okay, Norma, so here we go. Who taught you to sew?
I'm pretty much self-taught. When I was very young, I used to stand and watch my mother sew. She never actively taught me, but I did learn a lot by watching her.
Okay, and what is your favorite sewing term?
I would say bound buttonholes because I love how they look and I love to make them.
Okay, and what are you currently sewing?
I am currently the only thing I've started to sew is a quilt, which has teeny tiny little pieces, so it's taking me a really long time.
Oh, Norma, you've brought that in at lunchtime and shown it to us, and we were all very surprised.
And what Norma's not
complexity.
admitting, what Norma's not telling us is that she's currently also sewing garments for pattern
yes.
review and other things for the upcoming
Threads,
Threads
of course.
issues. There's a lot of sewing happening that she's not counting because it's not
Of
for personal
course.
sewing. Okay. Well, what's your favorite fabric to sew?
My favorite fabric is wool because it's very forgiving and, you know, a lot of times you can steam little wrinkles out.
Have you made anything good with wool recently that you liked?
Not recently that I can think of.
Oh, this is a time for you to boast about your son's jacket.
Oh, yes.
That's right.
Forgetting about my son's jacket, I made actually it was cashmere, which is close enough to wool, I guess.
Yeah.
Cashmere jacket with hand-sewn buttonholes, and oh my God, it's fabulous.
And did he like it?
He loves it.
That's
Even
very
though
nice.
the picture I took of him in it, he didn't look so happy.
He was very serious.
I think it was the picture, the picture taking that he didn't like.
Not so much the jacket, but it's nice to sew for appreciative people, definitely.
Yes, it certainly is.
Yeah. And the final question we have is, what do you love most about sewing?
I love the process. I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, you did talk about loving making bound buttonholes, and that
Yes.
is a process.
I do love
Yes.
the process of doing and making something that no one else has.
Yes.
Yeah.
Only me or my son.
Well,
That's
on
right.
today's episode, you'll see we have some extra pieces around us and an unfinished jacket in the background. I wanted to talk about how we all love the process. I love using the sewing machine. I love all the aspects, but I also like getting to a finished project and being able to wear it. And unfinished projects are really weighing me down lately. So I wanted to talk about why they happen and see if we can come up with some strategies for overcoming our own unfinished projects. Let's take a quick break here to share some Threads news. Then we'll be right back to talk unfinished projects. Have you heard about the Threads Experience? It's our live event, September 6th and 7th, 2019, in New York City. Meet the Threads team and take classes from contributing editors Kenneth D. King and Susan Kalgi. To get on the list for updates, visit threadsexperience.com. Welcome back to the podcast. And today we're talking about unfinished projects. And Carol, you brought something in. What do you have there? And why is it unfinished?
I have my dress of shame. It's my sad, sad dress that I've had I made it so long ago. I lived in a different house at the time, so it's been around for at least 5 years. And I really need to get it done. But the reason I haven't finished it is that it needs buttonholes in it still. And it's a very lightweight chiffon. And even though I have interfaced the plackets with some either batiste or voile or something, I also at the time didn't have this sewing machine I currently have. And I was not confident about the buttonholes I could sew and sewing it on these shifty, lightweight layers. And I just have been nervous about that. I don't want to hem it till I've put the buttonholes in. So it's just kind of been hanging there in my sewing room. And, every year I look at it and think, this is the year I'm going to put those buttonholes in and wear that dress. And it hasn't happened yet. But maybe this year I'll do it.
Carol, do you have any scrap fabric left over so that we could test buttonholes with some of the machines we have here?
I do not. I believe that I lost the scrap fabric in my flood that I refer to every time I have a problem with something. It's like everything went down the drain in my flood. So I don't think I have any scrap fabric. I think I can find something similar, but I actually don't know that I have any of this left over anymore. So I haven't really been able to practice, because that would have been my first thing to do. And I think I did, get around to doing that. And the other thing is, every time I go downstairs to my sewing room and get ready to to do this, I think, well, where are those buttons I bought for this dress? So I know now that I have at least 3 full sets of buttons somewhere in my sewing room for this dress. All of them are black, but slightly different sizes, maybe, or, like by 1/8 of an inch or so. And whenever I go to do the buttonholes, I can't remember where the buttons are, so I can't put buttonholes in. So
okay, so
it's a
concern
question of,
over a finishing detail.
yeah, and just disorganization, really, that sort of gets in my way.
If you don't have extra fabric, I suggest starting your buttonholes from the bottom of the garment where people's eyes aren't as close to the... So if you mess up the first buttonhole, it's not as big of a deal.
That's actually a really good idea. And the fact is that this is somewhat longer than I'm going to want it. I know I'm going to probably take up at least 2 or 3 inches, so I could put one maybe way down that would just be in the hem allowance and at least get one practice buttonhole in there.
Okay.
Very good thinking.
And Janine, you brought something as well. What did you bring?
I did, and most of my unfinished products, I have to say, are alterations to ready to wear garments, and this is one of those. This is a garment that I don't know, it's either a hand-me-down or was given to me or to our family somewhere along the way, and it fits me beautifully. I love the style of it. It's a fitted jacket that I could wear to work or anywhere, and it's wool, and I needed to lengthen the sleeves because, as you guys all know, I have very long arms, and the sleeves are just slightly too short. So I need to lengthen them by about, 1.25 inches or so. So I let one of the sleeves down, and that's where the project ended for
I see there's
moment.
a slight change in color.
Yes.
There. Yeah, on the hem allowance.
And there is this crease line from where it was folded. So I need to come up with some sort of trim for the bottom of this sleeve or some kind of stitching along that crease line. And this has been like this. Carol, you think 5 years is a long time? I'm not even going to tell you how long this has been hanging in my closet like this, with one sleeve, basted longer and the other one still awaiting work. And I think my big I just want to make sure it's correct, first of all, when I do it. But secondly, I'm just not sure what to do with it. Trim, stitching,
I think Norma has an idea for you.
Okay,
I do.
Norma, what is it?
Diluted vinegar sometimes works very well at either putting a crease in or taking a crease out.
I was thinking about that too. It was in, I think, maybe Barbara Modi's story about sewing fixes to use a vinegar solution. It won't correct that slight difference in color, but I think that if you apply some trim or embroidery on that dividing line and then just go with it as a style choice.
Well, okay.
I always shy away from the trim thing because it reminds me of when I was younger and you grow and your pants get too short and then your mother lets them down and she puts trim on there and I never enjoyed that.
All right, so if I do some sort of stitching, I feel like I need to echo it near the collar area. And so, again, this is the other thing that has stymied me with this project. I'm so worried that I'm not going to do it exactly correct, and maybe I should just try something on the sleeve and then maybe echo it on the collar.
Well, Janine, how short are the sleeves on you when they have not been adjusted?
They're pretty short. It's obvious.
Are they, bracelet length? Or something that could seem deliberately short?
No, they look like they're too
It's like your arms are too long for your sleeves. Okay, so we do need to do something about that. Maybe tone on tone, kind of a crewel embroidery that would be kind of gray wool so that it would not show up a lot, but it would kind of blend in and hide it a little bit. The thing for that jacket, though, is I was looking at it this morning. It's got this really great double collar feature, and the two collars both have that Davidow edge finish, just folded under.
Oh, cool.
And stitched. And it would be, in a way, I was thinking, can you do something with the sleeves that has the same kind of edge finish, let it down and just fold it up a little bit and top stitch similarly, and then hand sew invisibly to get the lining anchored inside. I don't know if that won't solve your problem with the crease going around it.
Right. Well, and the other thing about this sleeve is it has a small vent. It's not a button vent, it's just a small vent, which I really like that feature because the sleeves are rather narrow.
Yeah.
So getting it on and off, especially if you have a shirt that has a cuff, that makes it easier if you have that vent. And I don't know that I want to get rid of that.
Yeah.
So I know it's a lot of things, and maybe I'm just complicating the matter. You know me, I overthink things sometimes, and maybe that's the case here.
No, so again, in this example, we have this concern about getting it right, which is a very valid concern.
Right.
But I want you to be able to actually wear that jacket.
Yes, I want to wear it too.
Well, maybe step one is to get the vinegar solution that Norma suggested, spritz it on there and press it out a little bit and see what you get. Press it even just completely flat without even pressing up the hem allowance, and then see if you can get it to have a flatness that you're okay with.
Okay, that's a good idea.
And depending on why it's a slightly different color, if it's a little faded versus a little brushed, maybe somehow brushing the inside a little bit, the part that was folded up, might make it echo
Possibly.
The regular rest of the sleeve.
I was also thinking about getting some similar fabric samples and trying some different crewel embroidery stitches.
Yeah.
And then, you can get a nice visual by actually holding them on the cuffs.
Yes, testing I think would be a good idea. That might help me get over the hump of fear of trying something different. And maybe I should brush the fabric before I apply the vinegar, yes?
No, I would remove the crease first that when you're brushing, you're not getting any extra brushing on that ridge of the crease.
Okay. And not necessarily like aggressive brushing, just a little bit so that the nap is kind of the same in both areas. It may be already, but sometimes it's a little different if it's been folded up.
Okay. Well, thank you for this advice. Wow.
Oh, you're welcome. To me, that color difference is light.
It's fading.
I think so. I think so. And as you wear the jacket, I think that's gonna dissipate a bit.
Yes, and I don't think this jacket was worn much to begin with, so there are no wear marks that I can tell of.
No, it's a beautiful jacket.
It really is.
Thank you.
And it's quite unique seeming. That's one of those jackets that would be fun to do a demo on how to copy a vintage jacket because it has a lot of really pretty details.
It has a lot of nice details, yes, and it's a great fit for Janine too.
Right.
Thank you.
We should make a pact to wear our unfinished projects
Uh-oh.
in an upcoming episode.
I know we're a little bit off
pressure is on.
season, the two of us, but we can work out something.
Oh, pressure is on. Okay.
So my project is behind me. It's a Vogue jacket. And this is a problem that I encounter many times where I try to make materials that are not quite right work together. So I had two fabrics. I did not have enough of either fabric to do a whole project. So I thought I'll use the herringbone on the undercollar, and I'll use the tweed for the rest of the jacket. And the points, they just didn't work the way I wanted them to. I'm not sure I like the color combination, and the hand of the different hands of the fabrics didn't work the way I wanted it to. So now I've reached a point where I'm reluctant to invest more time in the project because I'm not sure that I'm going to like it when it's done. And that brings up another factor for me. That's probably 3 years old. And if I stall in a project and my style changes, I don't want to return to it, even though I've invested time and money in that project.
I've had a few of those too. I had a jacket that I'd cut out at one point, and I liked the pattern, and I think I'd used it before. And had some success with it and thought I'll just make another one in a different fabric. And by the time I got the second one cut out, I realized I didn't like the fit. I thought it was too big, the first one. And by then I'd cut it out and I'd sort of put it aside, and I'd kind of gave it up. I just thought it's not going to really be worth putting more time into it. I just, you know, I mean, a little part of me thought, I'll just finish it and give it to somebody who's a little broader in the shoulders than I am, but I don't have any time to sew. And so the idea of sewing something on spec for some hypothetical person that would wear something in my style that was a little bigger than me seemed a little bit too complicated.
I think that I've gotten better about letting the things go and just realizing that it was a learning experience and try to make better choices the next time. I was surprised when I really thought about my unfinished projects that I don't think that lack of time is actually the greatest factor in not finishing them. If I had the right materials, excited about wearing the project, if I give myself a deadline, those projects get done.
Find the time.
Yeah.
The deadline is key for me. I find that I don't get projects done too often when it has to do with garments as opposed to other like accessories or home decor. But I need a deadline for a garment. So if I have an event that I have to go to for which I need a new garment and I wanted to make one, that is the best scenario for me because I really need that push of a deadline.
Oh, well, I have that, and I've used it to force myself to finish things. And, you know, you run up to the deadline, and all the while I'm thinking, oh, I could be doing a better job in the sewing, or maybe the fitting is not exactly right, but it'll have to do because I've got 3 more days or something. And so I have actually finished garments that I might have otherwise left unfinished. And in the end, the results have been varied. Sometimes I'm thrilled that I did it, and sometimes I just think, oh, I would have been happier if I'd just been able to sort of drop it and try something different for that event. However, you know, I have some finished things now. So,
how about you, Norma? Is there any?
I have the ultimate unfinished project. I bought this fabric probably 20 years ago. I bought some really nice cashmere. My intent was to make a long winter coat. And I bought it's a charcoal gray, and I bought black brocade for the collar, and then the first problem I encountered was I couldn't find a pattern that I really, really liked, and I bought 3 or 4 different patterns, and none of them were really what I liked, and I haven't been able to find the perfect pattern since, and
Drape one yourself, Norma.
I'm not a pattern maker. So I've been thinking about altering one of the patterns, and meanwhile, the fabric just sits there on the shelf staring at me while I sew something else. So that's my ultimate unfinished project.
Well,
I have many.
What kind of coat are you looking to make? What is the silhouette?
I wanted a long, straight, probably tapered, tapered to the hem, and And then it had to be the right collar because I had the brocade for the collar.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure. I don't think I have enough to do a lapel with the brocade. Maybe I should just buy more different fabric. I don't know. There's just a multitude of issues.
Were you thinking of a rolled collar?
No, it's going to be a notched collar.
Notched, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the brocade sounds beautiful, though.
I know. It's a black brocade. So I also wasn't entirely sure about the black brocade because although it does have a pattern in it, it's black on black, and I wasn't sure it would shine enough against the charcoal gray fabric. You know what I mean?
Sounds elegant, though.
It does. It sounds
sounds
great.
wonderful.
It does sound wonderful. But right now it's still fabric.
Oh, I know, but based on what we've already talked about, I think it's a good idea for you to wait and find that, or if you have the time, put some time into looking for that exact pattern that you want.
Yeah,
I
especially,
have, but the problem with looking for a pattern is I haven't been able to find, I've looked in all the different pattern companies, and there's not a lot of coat patterns to start with.
Right.
So you're limited. One of the ones I bought, and I don't even know why I bought this pattern because I didn't like it. It was kind of like a fit and flare kind of coat where the bottom of it was very full, and I would never wear a coat like that.
Was there an element about the bodice or the sleeves that you really liked?
I think it had a nice collar and lapel.
Because
I think
that
that's
part,
why.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think you have kind of a Frankencoat in mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think
So
Yeah.
so I could take that, but I never had the ambition to take that coat and alter the skirt of the coat so that it was tapered as opposed to extraordinarily full.
But that's a much easier alteration to
Yes.
make than to do the collar. So if you can get the
Yes.
neckline and the sleeve shape or width or whatever that you like, then doing the skirt would
And
be
then,
okay.
of course, which is easy to add on. Of course, I had to put welts on it for the pockets out of the brocade too. So I think
that could
that
be nice.
one
Another
had
way
nice.
to bring in the brocade.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about the
So-
idea of looking at dress patterns and perhaps factoring in ease for the bulkier fabric? Would that give you more options for finding a collar and lapel that
I'm
you're
not
looking for?
sure. I'm not sure I'd be happy enough with
Yeah.
the fit or something.
Like you could get the thing with that is we have a nice article, it's an old Q&A or fitting or something about how much ease to add where so that you can turn a blouse or dress into a coat. But getting the collar right and the proper undercollar and stuff like that is a little bit more complicated. You'd really have to mess around with some samples and see how that worked out for you. That would be my only concern with that, is that around the collar you need to have, it's a little more complicated than just adding ease.
And
Not
every year,
impossible, not undoable, but
every fall, I say, okay, this is the year for the coat. And it never is the year.
Well, let's see if we can make it this year. Because I was going to ask you, you said that this fabric kind of stares at you. And I wanted to know from everybody, how do you store your unfinished projects? Because I tend to keep mine out in the open, and they do kind of stare at me and remind me, when I see them, that, you should be working on me. I'm almost there.
I hide mine away. I'll admit it. Yes, I do. Mine get put away. I guess I'm thinking that if I put it away for a little while, then take it out again, maybe I'll have inspiration. So no, they're not staring at me. They're in the back of my mind, but they're not a daily reminder.
this one has been hanging in my sewing room for a while, but I'm not sure why. Somehow it migrated upstairs, and I discovered it was hanging off the rail of my daughter's bed. And I don't know. She was home for spring break last week, and I went in and thought, well, there's my dress. How about that? I hadn't really thought about it because it wasn't in front of me for a while. So
Carol, is that your only unfinished project, or do you have quite a few?
That is right now my only sewing unfinished project, I think, unless you count them unfinished because there's still just a pattern in fabric. I don't consider that unfinished. I consider that unstarted. So that would not be an unfinished project.
Well, it's
I don't
unstarted
either. That
It's
feels like my
unstarted
stash.
and unfinished. I just find it. I find it difficult to have that fabric staring at, because right now I have some fabrics on a shelf in the sewing room. My sewing machine, if I'm sitting at my sewing machine, the shelf is on the wall to the left of me, and all that stuff is just staring at me while I sew.
Now, Norma, if it's not a pattern in fabric, if you actually get into the sewing, have you ever abandoned a project?
Actually, yes. I don't know how many years ago this was, but I had the idea that I was going to make all my jeans, because I wear jeans every day, and I don't really like the fit of any of my jeans. So I had this idea that I was going to make them all. And I used to, when I was in high school, I think, I made these jeans. You know how Levi's have the little V on the pocket?
Yes.
And I always made an N for Norma on my pockets.
Love it.
I always loved my jeans with the N on the pocket. And so I bought a ton of fabric, a ton of denim, and I bought it in different weights, and I made my pattern from a finished pair of jeans, which was probably my first mistake, since they didn't fit me all that well to start with. And one of the things that happened along the way, somehow, I'm not sure how this happened, I cut them too short.
Oh, no.
So
That's very in now, though.
Yeah, but not for me. I probably have 10 pairs of jeans cut out all together with the jean zipper and the buttons and all that stuff that goes with it in a bag in a drawer.
Wait, are all 10 are too short?
Yes.
I think you need to sew some trim on the bottom, Norma, and let them down.
I know, and then, oh no.
Bring back the length and trim.
Or do you need any jean shorts? You could make at least one pair of jean shorts.
I know. I can't remember what else. I think there was something else that was wrong with them, and I was sewing them in what do you call it? A factory method, where I was sewing
Like assembly line?
Yeah, like an assembly line. I was sewing all the pockets first. So they're all 10 pairs are partially done.
Oh boy! All right. Well,
So there's my ultimate unfinished, never to be finished project.
Well, thank you, everybody, for sharing. We're getting close to the end of our time. And before we go, we want to do a question and answer. And I'm going to admit, this is a question that I have personally for Norma. We both knit, and Norma has a technique for putting a ripple-free zipper into hand-knit garments. And this would also apply to bulky knits or, purchased sweater knits. So what's your secret, Norma?
A lot of people baste their zippers in to make sure they're flat. Well, I use 1,000,000 pins.
to pin it in place. All right.
Which sounds kind of funny, but it works for me because I don't particularly like to baste. I kind of think, not that it's a waste of time, but it doesn't give me the result that I want because the basting doesn't always make it stay where you want. So I just use lots of pins and sew very slowly and make sure that you could use a walking foot, but for some reason I tend not to put my walking foot on the machine. I don't know why, but I sew very slowly and make sure that the knit fabric isn't stretching as I'm
you're going.
sewing.
Yeah.
Just kind of push it along.
Do you sew over the pins?
Sometimes. I know it's like the thing you're not supposed to do, but I do a lot of things you're not supposed to do.
We confess to these things on this podcast. Everyone has said at some point something that they've done that is not a best practice. So
Yes, I
you're in
do
good company.
sew. I do sew over some of the pins at least. You know, maybe not all. It depends on, like, if I think the needle is going to hit that pin. Gotta
If
get
you're
rid of
going
it.
slowly, too, that helps. It seems like the pin has, or the needle has more time to kind of push the pin out of the way. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, how do you deal with the issue of the knit catching onto the feed dogs when you're sewing? Is that an issue? You said you're going slowly, but still, sometimes that happens.
I think with my machine, on the feed dog, the knit is actually on the top. So the zipper is against the feed dog. I always like the more stable fabric to be against the feed dog, so I don't have that issue.
That's actually very interesting because it's really uncommon to sew a zipper in when you're not sewing on top of the zipper tape.
Yes.
You know, because in order to
Really?
see, most people sew with the zipper upright so you can see where you're sewing
A
on
lot
the
of
tape.
people do, but that totally makes sense to me.
It does to me
because,
too.
yeah.
I was thinking the
I
same. Yeah.
don't think I've ever sewn, except in the case of invisible zippers where you're sewing, where you have to have the zipper in the groove of the foot.
I guess that's what I was thinking of because on invisible you really need to.
Yeah, but otherwise,
It's true.
The ones I've sewn into knit garments are not invisible, and they're not exposed either. I usually have the knit fabric over the zipper because I don't really like the look of exposed zippers, and it's a personal thing.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
I know. I think you've told me before you can knit in a lap.
Yes,
Yeah, to cover the zipper.
On the sad sweater that has lots of holes in it now.
It's a gorgeous sweater.
Oh,
it's only sad because it started to come apart a little bit.
Yes, and it has many holes, and along the cuffs there's a lot of which I tried to fix with the sewing machine because I couldn't find my spare yarn. So sad. Very expensive yarn. It was a beautiful sweater, and I just wore it to death. And it's got a hole in the back shoulder. It's got holes other places, and
Lots of character then.
Yeah.
well, yeah, but I only wear it when no one's watching. And I want to be warm because it is a very warm. But I did on that one. I did knit a long strip of
Was it garter stitch? Was it the same yarn?
It was the same yarn. I think it was garter stitch because I wanted it to be flat, and uncharacteristically of me, I hand sewed that lap in over the zipper tape. So when the zipper was down a little bit and the zipper, I had a beautifully finished zipper on the inside. I was so proud of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we should include a picture of your sweater in the show notes for this episode. Thank you for listening. Follow Threads on social media and visit threadsmagazine.com to view show notes for this episode. While you're on the site, check out Threads Insider, our online membership with exclusive access to expert sewing techniques. Until next time, keep on sewing with Threads.